Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Slifer the Sky Dragon Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for June 2024. Wanted to update the Slifer deck, and this is the pure Slifer deck that focuses on just the summoning of Slifer the Sky Dragon. We're not using any of the Arcana Joker support, we're just using the support that was made specifically for Slifer the Sky Dragon, along with a couple other smaller engines that are more or less generic for summoning out monsters to be able to summon out, which is my favorite of the three Egyptian god cards, focusing on the hand control that Slifer is meant to do as well, along with, as I said, some newer support we've had from some recent booster packs to help with this Egyptian god cards playstyle. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. Our main go-to boss monster is Slifer the Sky Dragon, using my favorite of the arts as well. And with this card, it requires 3 tributes to normal summon, cannot be normal set. This card's normal summon cannot be negated. When normal summon, cards and effects cannot be activated. And once per turn during the end phase, if it was special summon, send it to the graveyard. It gains 1,000 attack and defense for each card in your hand. If a monster is normal or special summon to your opponent's field, in attack position, that monster loses 2,000 attack. Then if its attack has been reduced to 0, destroy it. So a very powerful second mouth effect for the last part of it. And then the power to Slifer comes in the form of being able to, retain hand consistency for you to have this card have its powerhouse attack, and making it so your opponent just can't keep a board on the field as well is a big part of this monster. So any link summoning your opponent, may try to do can be hindered quite quickly with this card's 2,000 minus destruction. For added support to use along with Slifer, we are running the 3 copies of Ra's Disciple. When it's summoned, you can special summon up to 2 Ra's Disciple from your hand or deck, which the best play and outcome would be if they're from the deck, so you don't have to take anything away from your hand when you use the 3 to then tribute out your Egyptian God card onto the field to at least keep 1 more card in your hand for you to use against your opponent. One of the newer cards that I'm using in the deck, and I've been having a lot of fun testing it out, is Dandy White Lion. If this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you can special summon 3 white fluff tokens in defense position. You can unspecial summon from the extra deck the turn you activate this effect. You can only use this effect of Dandy White Lion once per turn. So the big play with this card is obviously to have your opponent destroy Dandy White Lion, and then you summon out your 3 fluff tokens. The play here would be hopefully that your opponent, doesn't have any other monsters to attack into those remaining fluff tokens. It can act as a barrier wall, but even if they have 1 token gone, if you can get out 1 other additional monster and then have a means to perform an additional normal summon with some of the other cards we were on the deck, then you can summon out Slifer with the added engine that Dandy White Lion provides. There are some other cards that I run in the deck to help speed this process along, which we'll go over in just a bit. But for the other engine, this is more of an engine that you can pick and choose which one you want. It can be either the Reactor Slime engine, the Tellius, the Little Angel engine, or the Angel 01 engine. So for this spot here, if you wanted to run 3 of any of these cards, you can choose how to adjust the numbers for these cards. I'm not the biggest fan of running both Tellius and Angel 1 in a Slifer deck because they do take up a good part of the special summon from your hand. A lot of the other cards we run, including Ra's Disciple and Dandy White Lion, just come down to their own resources to get out 3 monsters for you to summon out Slifer the Sky Dragon, while being able to keep hand consistency for the majority of the other cards. And then also 2 copies of Sphere Mode. This is more of a disruption for your opponent's cards. If they're building up a board on their side of the field, then you can summon out Sphere Mode on their side of the field and take away any of the pesky monsters that Slifer may not have been able to handle. And that is it for the main deck monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 copies of Thunder Force Attack. This card's activation and effect cannot be negated. If you control a monster whose original name is Slifer the Sky Dragon, destroy as many face-up monsters your opponent control as possible. Then if you activate this card during your main phase, you can apply the following effect. Draw cards equal to the number of monsters destroyed by this effect and send to your opponent's graveyard. Also, you can only attack with 1 monster this turn, which would ideally be Slifer. And then with this card just being your draw power, along with the destruction of your opponent's monsters, it's its main go-to attack as well. So a definite 3-0 to be able to make full use of a way to wipe out your opponent's cards and then just power up Slifer more and more. I also run 3 copies of Soul Crossing. During the main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, tribute summon 1 Divine Beast monster. When you do, you contribute a monster or monsters your opponent control, even if you do not control them. But if you tribute summon this way, apply this effect until the end of the next turn after this card resolves. You can only activate 1 card or effect, not counting the effects of the Divine Beast monsters. So with this card as well, you have the setup needed for you to use your opponent's monsters, and then you're just restricted to Slifer as your main go-to boss monster, which is what you're intended to do to begin with, using this card on the field. But having a way to take your opponent's own monsters and a more fast process using the tribute of even more monsters your opponent may have with this card also. And the additional normal summon play that I mentioned before comes in the form of card advance, which I really do like in this deck because it helps with the rearranging of the top cards of the deck. So if there are some particular cards you want to draw into with cards like Thunder Force attack, you can do so quite easily with this card, and then also gain your additional normal summoner set the turn you use this card. So if you had to summon out, let's say you had the 2 fluff tokens on the field, and you had to summon out 1 additional monster, then you can use card advance for that added tribute to then be able to summon out your Egyptian God card. I also run 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. Hand traps will be the bane of this deck, so having more draw power in the form of this card to replenish your hand or even take one of your opponent's resources to use for the sacrifice of your Egyptian God card, so I like to run this card in the deck. Also for the 1-ofs for the spells, 1 copy of Monster Reborn. This card is needed for the Revive Sky God, so you definitely want to run at least the 1 copy, which we can only run the 1, and the 1 copy of Call by the Grave for once again shutting down our opponent's hand traps before they would even activate for us to resolve the Triple Tactics Talent. And for the trap lineup, there is a pretty big trap lineup for the Slifer deck, but you'll see what I mean in just a bit. For our first go-to trap, 3 copies of the Revive Sky God. The activation of this card or effects cannot be negated, nor can its effects be negated. And also special summon 1 Slifer the Sky Dragon from your graveyard. Then each player draws until they have 6 cards in their hand, putting you at a 6,000 attack point Slifer the Sky Dragon on the field. And then also you can banish this card from your graveyard, place 1 Monster Reborn from your deck or graveyard on the top of your deck. Then if a Divine Beast monster is in your graveyard, draw 1 card. So giving you the option to draw into the Monster Reborn, and then also just being able to give you a Slifer on the field, which will put 6 cards in your hand, but also giving you the option for the banish to then get the Slifer back, because once it's special summoned from this card, it goes back to the graveyard. So then you'll have a second revival of your Slifer the Sky Dragon after using this initial trap. Now, the other card that I like to run that helps with the Dandy White Lion setup is Trap Tracks. This card, you target 1 monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, set 1 normal trap directly from your deck, except for Trap Tracks, and also it can be activated this turn. You can only activate 1 trap card for the rest of this turn after this card resolves. So it's very similar to Trap Trick, but being able to target a monster you control and destroy it means that we can destroy our Dandy White Lion on the field, giving us the 3 tokens, but also setting up the Revive Sky God for us then to be able to summon back Slifer the Sky Dragon. And then that means we can either have that resource to shut down our opponent's monsters they may try to summon out, or, destroy later on, and they may want to try and go for our Egyptian God card on the field because they may have more plans after the following turn to summon out, and then a monster that would minus their attack by 2,000 could really shut that down completely. And then this card also, like I said, just helps for grabbing that trap card to use as well. And the same card that does it is Trap Trick, but just in the form of a banish for the trap card, being able to activate within the same turn. I like running both. It just gives us more of a means to grab the very important Revive Sky God trap as well for us to use, with the rest of the traps being 2 copies of Metal Reflect Slime for us to be able to summon out our Egyptian God Slime. If you have Guardian Slime, you can always swap it in for this spot. I know it's just more of a pricier card, like I said, with the Obelisk deck, so if you don't have it, you can always just run Metal Reflect Slime until we get a reprint of the card. And then also the 2 copies of Call the Haunted. This could be another special summon target for Slifer on the field for the 1 turn, or even just as an end phase play for Dandy White Lion. If your opponent destroys it and then gets through all of the other cards on the field, you can then have this card ready to use on the following turn with your Trap Tracks to then destroy this card and have your 3 tokens ready to go from there also. If you wanted to try Foolish Burial and a Foolish Burial Goods instead of the Call the Haunted lineup, you could try that as well as just a way to get Slifer into the graveyard all the faster to use with our Revived Sky God trap card. And for the extra deck is pretty generic just because we don't go into it often. I have the 1 Egyptian God card Slime to use with the Metal Reflect Slime, needing the 3 tributes for this card in the form of just a trap that can be used then to go into this card. The 1 Link Spider, along with the 1 Relinquished Anima, and the 1 Owl Mirage. Still options to go into in this deck with some of our other monsters. The 1 Herald of Mirage Lights, the 1 Lena the Light Charmer, along with the 1 Donner Dagger for Hire, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 IP Masquerena, one Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos, and then the one Nightmare Unicorn with some of our bigger Link monsters, being the one copy of Borreload, Boral Sword, and the one Underworld Goddess, with our only Xyz monster being the Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis, for being able to overlay if our opponent special summon more or less 2 times in the same turn the following turn on one of our own monsters. And then one of the best summons is just in the form of Ra's Disciples. So you'll summon this card out, and I would say the better play for your hand to consist of is the one copy of Ra's Disciple, the one copy of Slifer the Sky Dragon, the one card advance along with 2 unknown cards. They can be anything as long as they aren't Ra's Disciple in your hand. So then what you'll do is you'll summon out your Ra's Disciple to the field, and then you will use the effect to summon out 2 copies of Ra's Disciple from your deck as well. You will then use your card advance to check the top cards of your deck. But the important part, aside from rearranging the top cards of your deck, you'll get the additional normal summon for your Slifer the Sky Dragon. So you'll tribute out your 3 cards, summoning out your Egyptian God card. And then from there, you have a monster that will also reduce the power of your opponent's monster. So if they try to build a board presence, they will have a tough time doing so, with Slifer being able to lower down any monsters they summon in attack position. So that includes any Link monsters as well. But if you want to set one, you take the risk of just having the 1,000 attack point Slifer, making it a little easier if your opponent were to summon out a 3,000 attack point monster. But all the less, as long as they don't summon anything with that greater, or other cards that could get around it, then you're fine. But sometimes you may just have some other cards that may be able to protect you like that. If you open up the Thunder Force attack, that can give Slifer more power and then additional draw because of it also. The other play I mentioned before is the Dandy White Lion, because you can use this card along with the setup with your Trap Tracks. Now this will be the activation play, because then you can go for Trap Tracks, destroying your Dandy White Lion. This will give you the 3 Dandelion tokens on the field, along with the setup for your Revived Sky God on the field as well. This setup can then be used because you can activate this card as well, but this also has to have Slifer in the graveyard, so this comes better as a late game play in case you want to summon this card out afterwards also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. As I said, slowly making my way to updating all of the Egyptian God card decks. We've done Obelisk, we've done Slifer now, and now we'll move on to the Winged Dragon of Ra, and maybe we'll try a deck that has all 3 of them incorporated in one as well. But as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.